If you're visiting the Netherlands for the first time this year, make sure you watch this video because in it, I'll be sharing all sorts of tips and tricks for first-timers. Hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com, and over the years, I've probably been to the Netherlands maybe 6 or 7 times, so I've learned a lot the hard way, what to do and what not to do. So in this video, I'm gonna be sharing all my top tips and tricks to make sure that your first trip is a roaring success. But for now, let's get started with some basic must-knows and travel planning tips. So first things first, do understand that there is a difference between the Netherlands and Holland. I know these terms are often used interchangeably, but Holland actually only refers to a small part of the country, whereas the Netherlands is the entire country. And to be honest with you, most Dutch people I've met are really chill about this. They often use them interchangeably themselves just because they know that Holland is better known. But if you want to be technically correct, just know that these shouldn't be used interchangeably. Also, it's very important for you to know that the Netherlands is way more than just Amsterdam, and getting around to different cities couldn't be easier because the country is so small. So be sure to diversify your itinerary for your trip because there really is a lot to see. Within an hour of Amsterdam, for instance, you have all sorts of cool cities like Haarlem, Utrecht, Rotterdam, The Hague, Leiden, and there's plenty more to discover beyond that if you just venture a little bit further out. So be sure to look beyond just Amsterdam, there is so much to see. Now, in terms of when to visit, honestly, spring is one of the best times to go. Sure, the weather can be a little bit iffy, it rains a lot in the Netherlands, but this is when you're gonna be able to see some of those classic Dutch tulips that the country is so famous for, and that is when they're gonna be in bloom. Now, of course, tulip season does vary year by year. We're at the whims of nature here, so it's not like you're gonna be able to say, okay, on this date, all the tulips are just gonna bloom. But generally speaking, if you're planning a trip specifically for this, mid-April is probably a safe bet. There's probably gonna be tulips at that time. And in the past, this is when I've gone and it has been absolutely beautiful. If you're looking to avoid crowds though, winter or fall is probably a better bet, and I would definitely avoid July and August, as well as school holidays like Easter, because that's when crowds and prices are at their worst. Now, language-wise, the official language in the Netherlands is, of course, Dutch, but honestly, Dutch people speak phenomenal English, and I'm not just talking about like vocabulary and grammar, they actually get references and jokes as well, so really they are super fluent, and you're gonna be completely fine getting by with English, generally speaking, especially in the big cities. So don't worry too much about learning a lot of Dutch before you go. English will be just fine, but it is, of course, still polite to learn some basics, so to say thank you, it's dankjewel, just keep that one in mind. You're gonna be using it a lot. In terms of getting around, the trains in the Netherlands are honestly amazing. They're super clean, super efficient, simple to use, and there's like 400 train stations scattered across the country, so you can really get anywhere with the train. The best thing is the prices are also fixed on distance, so you don't have to worry about dynamic pricing. Now, in terms of figuring out what trains to catch or what public transport to use, one really great resource is called 9292, and this is a website and also an app that you can download, and basically you can put in where you're departing from and also your destination, and then it'll show you exactly how you can get from one place to another using different modes of public transport. As of 2023, you can even use your contactless debit and credit cards at the train station, so you don't need to even buy your tickets in advance. So you can just show up, tap your card, and go right through. Sadly, there is a downside to this utopian sounding train system, and that is it's not exactly the cheapest. Luckily, there are a few different ways that you can save money. The first is to book in advance for off-peak periods. So often you can get a small discount of 10% if you book a digital ticket at least 4 days in advance, specifically for off-peak periods, which are weekdays before 6:30, weekdays between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m., and also weekdays after 6:30, as well as all day during weekends and holidays. You can also buy something called group tickets, which give you more savings the more people you have in your group. So if you're doing any trips with multiple friends or family, this can be a great way to save. And if you plan to cover a lot of ground, like you're doing some day trips or whatever, you can also buy day tickets that cover you for the entire network or specific portions of the network. So that can be another way to save money. Now, as for which tickets to buy, as a tourist, as I mentioned before, probably the simplest thing to do is just go contactless, unless you're buying in advance for the discount, in which case you can get the digital tickets and then just scan it on your phone. They do also still have the old school OV chip cards, which are these physical tickets that you can buy from the machines. To be honest, as a visitor, I wouldn't advise getting these just because there's no benefit to getting them, and it does cost €1 extra. There's also personal OV cards that you can buy and reload with credit, but to be honest, as a tourist, it doesn't really make sense to get these unless you're planning to go to the Netherlands a lot or you're gonna be staying there long term, because these cards, yes, they can unlock certain discounts and perks, but it doesn't really make sense if you're only there for a few days. Lastly, note that there's also Wi-Fi on board, so be sure to look for a network called Wi-Fi in the train. All right, now let's run through some quick culture and etiquette tips. First of all, don't be shocked by Dutch directness. I really do think that Dutch people are overall super friendly and kind, but there is a common stereotype that they can be more direct and honest. And I have witnessed this on a few occasions. They're like super friendly 99% of the time, and then out of nowhere, they'll hit you with this very direct honesty bomb that kind of takes you aback if you're not used to it. So just be prepared for that, and don't be surprised if you ask someone how their day's been and they tell you it's actually been terrible. It's nothing against you personally. Now, another thing that you should try to do is learn the correct pronunciation of the destinations that you're visiting. As I mentioned before, Dutch people speak amazing English, but one area where they might struggle is if you're not pronouncing the names of places correctly. That's because they're just so used to hearing the correct pronunciation of places. So if you're heading to different towns or different cities, make sure you know how to say them just in case you need to ask for directions. Of course, with bigger cities like Amsterdam, which have a very popular and common anglicized name, it's going to be fine. You don't have to be like, oh, where's Amsterdam? But with places that are smaller and don't have like a common anglified pronunciation, it can be really helpful to know how to say it. And of course, another important etiquette tip is to just be respectful of customs and things that are different to your home country. So for instance, for a lot of first-time visitors, I know it's super common to be shocked that things like prostitution are legal here and marijuana is decriminalized. If it's not like that in your home country, naturally you're going to be surprised by that. But of course, in the Netherlands, this is common. So don't be making things out to be a novelty. I feel like that's really obnoxious. Like, don't go to the red light district and take photos of the women because that's a novelty to you. That's super frowned upon. In fact, a lot of Dutch people even consider the coffee shops and red light district to be more things that tourists do rather than locals. So yeah, don't assume that everyone in the Netherlands are potheads because they're absolutely not. All right, now let's talk about sightseeing and attractions in the Netherlands. First of all, if you're coming for the world famous tulip season, there's a few things that you should know. I know the fields are beautiful, but when you see tulip fields, make sure you're not going out onto the fields and trampling on flowers, picking flowers, doing things like that, because at the end of the day, these fields and these farms are still people's livelihoods. So as much as you want to go get a nice picture, make sure you're not ruining the fields in the process of doing that. In fact, these days, there's actually a lot of farms that have caught on to the fact that Instagrammability is a big thing. So there's actually quite a few farms that offer photo experiences where you can buy a ticket and then you can go in, they'll give you props, you can take pictures. And so if you want to take photos, make sure to look into an experience like that and don't just go trample random tulip fields out in the countryside, because that is definitely frowned upon and is technically trespassing. Now, another thing to note is that Keukenhof, which is the world's most famous flower garden, a lot of people seem to think that when you go there, it's going to be rows upon rows of tulip fields, but that's not actually the case. Keukenhof is actually a landscaped garden and it's really beautiful. There's different sculptures, different installations, but based on the marketing and the photos that they use, a lot of people think that they're going to see tulip fields that look like this, and that's not the case. So make sure you also book an additional experience, do another tour that takes you to fields instead of just going to the gardens, because it's not going to look like that. Now, when going sightseeing in the Netherlands, another big tip is to book things in advance, especially for big attractions like the Anne Frank House, for instance, in Amsterdam. You really do need to book in advance because during peak tourist season, these places can book up really quickly. Now, as amazing as Dutch attractions are, I do find that some of them can be quite expensive. And unlike other European countries I've been to, there don't seem to be a lot of age-based discounts unless you're a child. So there's not a ton of discounts for youth or students or seniors. So just keep that in mind. That said, there are a few different ways that you can save money. So the first one is by buying sightseeing passes or cards. I've done this in the past with the Amsterdam card, for instance, and these are basically cards that give you admission to a bunch of different attractions for one set price. And I really like these. If you're planning on doing a ton of paid attractions, this can save you a ton of money. So be sure to look into those. But if you don't want to commit to a bunch of attractions at once, another thing I've noticed in the Netherlands that's super common is doing bundle attraction tickets. So oftentimes if you hop on Get Your Guide or Tickets, you'll find that there's bundle deals. So you can group together some of the most popular attractions and then get a discount by buying 2 of them at the same time or 3 of them at the same time. So before you book directly on the official websites, make sure to have a look around and see if there's any bundled tickets, because oftentimes that can save you a lot of money as well. All right, now let's move on to some final tips for when you arrive in the Netherlands. The first is to beware of bike lanes. So in the Netherlands, people cycle a lot and they take cycling incredibly seriously. So if you're from a country like mine that doesn't have a ton of bike lanes, you might not be used to navigating the streets with them. There are bike lanes all over every single city, so it's very easy for you to accidentally walk into one unknowingly. So be sure to look around, keep an eye out for bike symbols on the ground, and make sure you're never walking in the bike lane, because that puts you in danger, puts the cyclists in danger, and they will get really mad at you. On a similar note, definitely don't rent a bike in the Netherlands unless you're super confident on one, because as I mentioned before, Dutch cyclists are on a whole other level. Honestly, I'm convinced most Dutch people are born cycling out of the womb because they are so proficient on these bikes and it's super second nature to them. So if you're not a confident cyclist, navigating these bike lanes with all these locals who are super confident on bikes can be a recipe for disaster. So definitely don't rent a bike unless you're super comfortable with riding one. Bike theft is also a really common crime to be mindful of, and I have heard that they tend to target tourist bikes. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you lock up your bike really securely and maybe just rent one for the day. Another must know is to always have cash on you or to have a Maestro card. So in the Netherlands, credit cards aren't as common as they are in other countries. So while most places will take card, oftentimes it's specifically this Maestro debit card that a lot of non-Europeans won't have. So make sure you have cash on you because you're going to be needing it for small purchases and you don't want to get caught out without any way of paying. Be sure to also bring coins with you so that you can use public washrooms, especially if you're a woman. Unfortunately, it's a very strange thing in the Netherlands that Public urinals are free to use, but unfortunately public toilets are not. So if you're a man, you can pee for free. If you're a woman, you have to pay. I don't love it, but it's something to be mindful of, so bring coins with you. And of course, once you're there, make sure you try all the different Dutch delicacies. So I know abroad, a lot of people will already know about the Dutch pancake. That's one dish that has made its way over to North America, and it's those thick pancakes that takes up the entire plate. But there's a lot more to Dutch cuisine than just the pancakes, and I'm sure Dutchies can kind of chime in the comments with their favorite dishes, but for me, where the Netherlands really shines is its array of snack foods. I love snack foods in the Netherlands so much, so here are just some recommendations based on what I personally really like. So firstly, for breakfast, you have to try buttered bread with sprinkles. Yes, this is something that they do, and it is absolutely delicious. At some point, you should also make sure you get a snack from a Fibo, and these are all over the Netherlands, and basically, they're like hot vending machines where you can put in a coin, and then there's a hot snack in there waiting for you. Isn't that just amazing? And oftentimes the snacks that you get in here are kind of the more traditional Dutch snacks that I love so much. So you can get things like croquettes and bitterballen, and it's so convenient and tasty and fun. If you want your life to be changed though, you need to try a stroopwafel. These are basically waffles that are made out of 2 thin cookies with a caramel filling, and they're pressed together. They are the definition of perfection. And these days you're gonna find lots of places that will do fancy things like they'll dip them in chocolate or add some sprinkles or whatever on top. I'm a purist. I think that the original OG version is the best, so make sure you try an original stroopwafel with nothing on it. It's gonna change your life, it's so good. And of course, I can't talk about Dutch food without mentioning the most famous street food that you'll see everywhere, which is raw herring. Now, traditionally, you're supposed to eat this herring by picking it up from the tail and kind of like letting it slide down your throat. I have tried it once. Wouldn't necessarily do it again. Give it a try if you want, but just know that it's not gonna be necessarily a taste that you're used to. Now, one thing to be mindful of no matter what you're eating is beware of seagulls, especially if you're eating that herring. I have seen so many videos of tourists eating this herring for the gram and then a seagull just swooping in and grabbing the entire thing like out of their mouths. So yeah, definitely beware of that. Now, last but not least, I do think it's important to explain the difference between a coffee shop, a cafe, and a brown cafe or brown bar. So this is kind of confusing for first timers, but if you want a coffee, you're gonna go to a cafe, okay? Because if you go to a coffee shop, that is where they sell marijuana. And to make things even more confusing, there are things called brown cafes or brown bars, and these are kind of like a Dutch equivalent of the English pub. They're like dark wood, really cozy atmosphere, and you go in there to enjoy a few drinks. Definitely go to a brown bar during your visit. I think it's just one of the coziest ways to enjoy an evening. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found that helpful. And as usual, if you have any more questions, be sure to leave a comment. If you have any more tips to add, especially if you're Dutch, feel free to leave those in the comments. And for more practical travel videos just like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much. Bye.